Hope you're having a nice Sunday. I'm standing here with my grand's flag, and it's old and it's tattered, kind of like the state of our nation right now. And I haven't had the heart to get rid of it, or retire it rather, because it reminds me of my grand. Working with him out in the garden, piddling out in the shop, where he would hand me little nuggets of wisdom like, it costs the same amount of money to keep your gas tank full as it does to keep it empty. And it reminds me of the sacrifice that he made in 1944 in a forest in a country that he couldn't even put his finger on a map and figure out where it was. He made that sacrifice. But I figure it's time to retire this flag, put it inside a warehouse in a frame, and put a brand new flag up. Folks, you know, you may be wondering why this nobody from Augusta, Georgia is suddenly putting all of these videos up on the internet, thinking that you may want to watch them. There's several reasons, and I'm going to tell you what they are. Number one, I have been very blessed in my life to have encountered some very wise people. Many of them aren't with us anymore, just like my grand. And I want to impart the wisdom that they gave me. And this is about the best way that I know how to do it. The other thing is I'm very deeply concerned about the state of our once proud nation. And the other thing is, I got a kid, got a child. And I was raised with the belief that we leave this earth in a better place than what we inherited for our children. And folks, we're not doing that. Let's talk about Charlottesville. Charlottesville, if it happened any other place, it would hurt me, because 3 people died in that mess. But it happened in Charlottesville. Charlottesville is a sacred place to me. That is the home of Thomas Jefferson. That is the place where he sat down and he conceived the words and the language that became the Declaration of Independence. It's like a dagger to my heart to watch what happened in Charlottesville. Folks, if we're going to have an adult conversation, then we need to have an adult conversation. You notice what I just said was that we were a once proud country. I didn't say great. We've never been a great country. We've always had the aspiration to be a great country. But if we're going to be absolutely honest, then yes, this country was formed while slavery was occurring. They tried to end it, they couldn't. It is a fact. In the 1870s, when this country was expanding and moving to the West Coast, a genocide occurred. Thousands and thousands of Native Americans were killed, unjustly. And it became the blueprint for the final solution for Adolf Hitler over in Germany. And even when we were trying to be great and rid the world of fascism, this country put Japanese Americans in concentration camps. And we're not going to use the word internment camps because that sounds nice and no, they stripped them of their wealth and they put them in concentration camps. It's wrong. And during this time, yes, in the South, we had segregation, and no, it was not separate and equal. It was separate and unequal, and it was wrong. But if you will notice in your Constitution, it does not say that we're creating a perfect union. It says we are attempting to create a more perfect union. And that means that the generations that come along can continue to aspire and try to be great. We can be a great nation. And the thing in Charlottesville should teach us several lessons. Number one, as I've told you in previous videos, the media is not telling you about the Fukushima nuclear reactor plant that continues to spew radiation into the atmosphere and into the Pacific Ocean, killing the wildlife and poisoning us. They're not talking about that. They're not talking about the financial situation in America where we are burdening, we are stealing from our future generations to pay for our fun right now. They're not talking about that. They want you to think that we're in the middle of a race war. And folks, we're not. We're not. The adults in our society needs to start having a conversation and not relying on the kids that are actually out there rioting in the streets and creating mayhem, pulling down statues and that sort of thing. No, the adults need to have the conversation. And the president is absolutely correct when he says it's both sides. The alt-left, the alt-right, the left wing, the right wing. Please understand, folks, the left wing and the right wing belong to the same damn bird. I've seen a lot of scorn shown on both the left and the right, and the president, who really, I don't know what kind of an answer anybody would have been happy with, but a lot of scorn shown on all of those folks. And one of the wise people that I know pointed something out to me that's in the Bible. Now, I'm not a preacher, so I'm not going to quote scripture to you. You can go and look it up yourself. Psalms 1:1 says, don't go with the crowd that scorns. Folks, these people, all of them, they, aside from their lawlessness, and we are a country of law and order, aside from the lawlessness, they don't deserve our scorn, they deserve our prayer. So I've got with me today a couple of fellas. Both of them have proudly served our country, and I call them two of my greatest friends. And that flag, that represents so much to me. But today that flag's got to come down. And while that flag comes down, I want you to join me, and I want to pray for the neo-Nazis. I want to pray for the white supremacists. I want to pray for Antifa. I want to pray for the Black Lives Matter folks. I want to pray for all of those, because every last one of those groups, those folks have hate in their heart. And the only thing that is going to take the hate out of their heart is the grace of God. So they're going to change the flag, and we're going to pray. One final thought. I've known a lot of very wise people throughout my life, and I've been very blessed to have them in my life. One of them is the late Reverend Jackson Parks. And Jackson always called me his son, and he treated me that way, even though we didn't look anything alike. And I learned a lot from him. Jackson was born in the 1920s in rural Georgia. And he told me a lot about what it was like to be in the segregated South. There was a story that he told me. He was in the car on a road trip with the family, and they couldn't find a colored restroom to go to. He was only about 5 years old. And Jackson peed his pants. And his daddy spanked him for it, because he said, men don't do that. And I asked Jackson at the time, how is it that you consider me, a little white boy, to be your son? How can you not be bitter at the way that you had to live when you were growing up? And he said something to me that I consider to be profound. He said, son, heaven never was and is not segregated. Think about that, folks. Don't be a part of the problem anymore by just sitting back and allowing everything to happen. Be a part of the solution.